The massive chamber floated in space, orbiting a dying star that burned with cold blue light. Inside, creatures from across the galaxy gathered in a room so large that Earth's biggest stadium could fit inside it 10 times over. Some of these beings looked like clouds of gas. Others were made of living crystal. A few existed as pure energy, their bodies shifting and changing with every thought. Daeho Kim stood alone in the center of the room. He was just a man in a simple black suit. His hands trembled slightly, but he kept them clasped behind his back where no one could see. Above him, around him and below him through the transparent floor, thousands of alien eyes watched his every move. He had traveled for 6 months to reach this place. Earth had spent decades trying to get the attention of the Galactic Council. Now finally they were listening, or at least pretending to listen. Daeho cleared his throat and began to speak. His words were translated instantly into 800 different languages by machines he could barely understand. He talked about Earth. He showed them pictures of human cities, of art galleries and hospitals, of children playing in parks. He explained how humans had split the atom, how they had walked on their own moon, how they had begun to reach out into space. The aliens watched in silence. Daeho could not read their expressions. How could he? Some of them did not have faces. But he felt something in the air around him. It felt like the moment before someone starts laughing at a joke. When he finished speaking, the silence continued for a long moment. Then it began. A sound like breaking glass echoed through the chamber. Daeho realized with growing horror that it was laughter. The being called Veltronus spoke first. It was ancient beyond human understanding, a creature that had watched stars be born and die. Its voice sounded like wind chimes in a storm. "You cannot even cure your own diseases," Veltronus said. "Your people die from tiny organisms you cannot see. You call this civilization?" Another voice joined in. This one belonged to Thex, a being that looked like a floating mountain of dark stone. "Your longest empire lasted barely 300 of your years. We have structures that have stood for 10,000. You are children playing with toys," more voices rose. They pointed out that humans still fought wars over invisible lines drawn on dirt. That Earth had only one language group that most humans could understand. And even then, billions could not speak it. That human technology was so primitive they had not even left their own solar system. Daeho felt his face grow hot. He had expected questions. He had expected concerns. He had not expected this casual, dismissive mockery. These beings were not taking Earth seriously at all. The council speaker, a being of pure light named Rendix, called for order. The laughter slowly died down. Rendix's voice was cold and formal. "The Galactic Council has reviewed Earth's petition for membership," she said. "We find that humanity does not meet even the most basic requirements for civilized status. Your petition is denied. You may apply again in 5,000 of your years should you survive that long." The words hit Daeho like physical blows. 5,000 years. That was longer than all of recorded human history. They were being told to go away and grow up, as if Earth was a child bothering adults at work. But it got worse. Thex spoke again, and this time there was cruel amusement in his voice. "We have decided to classify Earth as a Category 7 curiosity world. You will be observed and studied. For your own safety, you will be confined to your solar system. We will place monitoring stations to ensure you do not leave. Should you attempt to develop faster than light travel, we will disable your ships. This is for the good of the galaxy," Daeho found his voice. "You are making us prisoners in our own home?" "We are protecting you from yourselves," Veltronus said, "and protecting the galaxy from you. You are too primitive, too violent, too unstable. In time, perhaps you will mature. Until then, stay home." The council session ended. Daeho was escorted out of the chamber by machines that did not speak to him. He walked through corridors that changed shape around him, past windows that showed impossible views of twisted space. He felt numb. The ship that carried him back to Earth was provided by the council. It was fast, much faster than anything humans had built. It made the 6-month journey in just 3 weeks. Daeho spent that time in his small cabin, staring at the walls, trying to find words for what he would tell the people waiting for him at home. When his ship entered Earth's atmosphere, Daeho looked out the window at his planet. From space it looked so beautiful, blue and white and green, hanging in the darkness like a jewel. He thought about what the council had said. Primitive, violent, unstable. Maybe they were right. Humans did fight wars. They did die from diseases. They had not solved all their problems. But looking at Earth, Daeho felt something shift inside him. He saw 8 billion people down there. 8 billion individuals who got up every morning and tried to make things better. Who loved and learned and built and dreamed. Yes, humans had problems. But they had never stopped trying to solve them. That had to count for something. The ship landed in Geneva, where the United Nations waited. Daeho walked into the assembly hall where representatives from every nation on Earth had gathered. The room fell silent as he approached the podium. Every eye was on him. Every camera was recording. He told them everything. He did not soften the words. He told them about the laughter, about being called primitive and violent. He told them about the monitoring stations that would trap humanity in their own solar system, like animals in a cage. He told them about the 5,000-year waiting period. When he finished, silence filled the room. It was a different kind of silence than the one in the council chamber. This silence was heavy with anger and shame and hurt pride. Then President Yoonji Park stood up. She was a small woman with iron in her spine and fire in her eyes. She had led South Korea for 6 years before being elected to lead the United Nations coalition. She was known for never backing down from a fight. She looked around the room at all the gathered nations. Representatives who normally could not agree on anything. Leaders who had been enemies and rivals for generations. In that moment, she saw past all of it. "Then we do it ourselves," she said, 5 words. That was all it took. 5 words that would change everything. The room erupted, not with despair but with determination. Daeho watched as something remarkable happened. Nations that had been arguing for decades suddenly started talking about cooperation. Scientists who had been working in isolation started planning collaboration. Military leaders who had been preparing for war against each other began discussing defense of Earth. In that moment, humanity stopped looking outward at the stars and started looking at each other. They realized something the Galactic Council had missed. Humans were good at being underestimated. They were even better at proving everyone wrong. Daeho felt tears on his face, but he was smiling. The Council thought they had put humanity in its place. They had no idea what they had just started. The meeting continued late into the night. Plans were made. Resources were pledged. The word went out across Earth in every language. Humanity had been rejected and imprisoned. Now humanity would show the galaxy what 8 billion determined people could do when they worked together. As Daeho finally left the building in the early hours of morning, he looked up at the stars. They looked the same as always, cold and distant. But now he knew there were people up there. People who had laughed at Earth. Let them laugh, he thought. They would not be laughing for long. 3 months after the rejection, something new appeared in the Nevada desert. From the outside, it looked like an ordinary research facility. Solar panels, a few buildings, some radio towers. Nothing special. But beneath the sand, tunnels stretched for miles in every direction. Inside those tunnels, humanity was breaking the laws of physics. Dr. Hyun-Woo Lee stood in front of a whiteboard covered in equations that would have made no sense to anyone from just a year ago. He was young, only 32, but his eyes had dark circles under them. He had not slept properly in weeks. None of them had. "It does not work if we try to go faster," he said to the team gathered around him. "Space will not let us. But what if we do not go faster? What if we make space smaller?" The other scientists stared at him. Then someone laughed, not in mockery but in sudden understanding. It was so simple. So obvious. Why had no one thought of it before? They got to work. The breakthrough came 2 months later at 3 in the morning. Hyun-Woo watched his computer screen as the simulation ran. In the virtual test, a ship folded space around itself and appeared 5 light-years away. It had not moved faster than light. It had simply made the distance shorter. Hyun-Woo called President Yoonji Park immediately. He did not care that it was the middle of the night. This could not wait. "It works," he said when she answered. "We can do it. We can leave the solar system." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Then Yoonji spoke, her voice steady and calm. "How long until we can build a real ship?" 18 months, Hyun-Woo said. "Maybe less if we get more funding." "You will have whatever you need," Yoonji said. "But doctor, this stays secret. No announcements. No press releases. Let the council think we are staying in our cage. Let them keep laughing." All across Earth, similar scenes played out. In South Korea, an engineer named Ji-won Choi worked in a converted coal mine, building engines that could fold space. In Australia, a botanist named Minho Park created gardens that could grow food forever using only light and water and clever recycling. In Japan, an AI specialist named Yuna Han built computers that thought in ways no one had imagined before. They all worked in secret. The Council had placed monitoring satellites around Earth's solar system, watching for any signs of faster-than-light technology. But those satellites were looking for the wrong things. They were looking for the kind of drives that Council species used. They did not recognize what humanity was building because it was completely different. The nations of Earth poured resources into what they called Project Ascension. Money that once went to military weapons now went to spaceships. Scientists who once competed now collaborated. It was not perfect. People still argued. Countries still had disagreements. But for the first time in human history, every nation was working toward the same goal. 16 months after Hyunwoo's breakthrough, the first ship was ready. It was not large or impressive to look at. It was smaller than the Council's monitoring satellites, sleek and dark and quiet. They named it Defiance. Captain Seojin Kang was chosen to command it. She was a former fighter pilot who had flown missions in 3 different countries' air forces. She was calm under pressure and afraid of nothing. When they showed her the ship, she smiled. "It looks fast," she said. "It is," Ji Won-choi replied. "Faster than anything in the galaxy. Probably." The test flight was scheduled for a Tuesday morning. No one told the press. No one told the public. Only a few dozen people even knew it was happening. If something went wrong, if the ship exploded or disappeared, the world would never know. Seojin climbed into the pilot's seat. The controls were simple, designed for human hands. The computer systems spoke to her in Korean. Everything had been built by humans for humans. No alien technology, no borrowed science. Just human stubbornness and determination. "Ready for jump," she said into her radio. "Jump authorized," came the response from the ground. "Good luck, Captain." Seojin pressed the button. Reality twisted. For a moment that felt like forever and no time at all. She existed everywhere and nowhere. Then it ended. She looked at her screens. Earth was gone. According to her instruments, she was now near Proxima Centauri, more than 4 light-years away. "Defiance to base," she said, her voice shaking slightly. "Jump successful, we did it. We actually did it." Back on Earth, the control room erupted in cheers. People hugged and cried and laughed. They had done what the Council said was impossible. They had left their cage, but they were not done yet. 2 months later, a second ship jumped out of Earth's solar system. Then a third, then 10 more. Small ships, fast ships, ships that could appear and disappear before the Council's slow monitoring systems even noticed they were gone. And then, 18 months after that humiliating rejection, Captain Seojin Kang did something spectacular. Her ship Defiance jumped into the space near the Council's main station. It appeared on their sensors like a ghost, there and then gone and then there again. She broadcast a message on all frequencies. "This is Captain Seojin Kang of the Earth vessel Defiance. Humanity requests trade negotiations. We will be waiting for your response." Then she jumped away before they could react. The Council chamber filled with chaos. Alarms blared. Systems that had not needed to activate in 1,000 years suddenly lit up. The impossible had just happened. The humans, those primitive children who could not even cure their own diseases, had just appeared at their doorstep with technology that should not exist. Thex's voice boomed through the chamber. "How did they do this? Our satellites detected nothing. Our sensors saw no testing. They should still be trapped in their system." Veltronus, the ancient energy being, flickered with what might have been surprise. "They did not use our methods. They invented something new. Something we never considered." Speaker Rendix called for calm. "Bring the human ship back. We need to speak with them." But Seojin was not coming back. Not yet, she had other places to be. Over the next week, human ships appeared at trade stations across the galaxy. They showed up at mining colonies and farming worlds. They visited places where the Council's attention rarely reached, places where smaller species struggled to survive under the Council's grand but distant leadership. The humans brought gifts, medicine that cured diseases the Council had never bothered to solve because too few species suffered from them. Technology that made farming easier and mining safer. Entertainment, music, and movies and stories that made alien audiences laugh and cry. But mostly they brought respect. They treated these smaller species as equals. They listened to their problems. They offered help without asking for anything in return except friendship and trade. Within 6 months, humanity had trade agreements with 127 different species. Most of them were species the Council barely noticed, but together they represented a significant portion of the galaxy's population. Daeho Kim, now promoted to Earth's chief trade ambassador, traveled constantly between worlds. He was no longer the nervous man who had stood before the Council. He moved with confidence now, speaking to alien leaders as equals. He remembered the laughter and the mockery. He used that memory as fuel. On a trade station orbiting a orange dwarf star, he met with representatives from a species called the Valorians. They were small, barely 3 feet tall, with 6 arms and large eyes. The Council had always treated them as inferior. "Why do you help us?" the Valorian leader asked Daeho. "The Council says you are primitive." "They say you are violent and dangerous," Daeho smiled. "The Council says many things. But we remember what it is like to be looked down on. We remember what it is like to be told you are not good enough. We do not forget, and we do not do the same to others." The Valorian leader was silent for a moment. Then she said, "We will trade with you. And more than that, we will stand with you if the Council tries to stop you." It was the same everywhere humans went. The galaxy was full of species that the Council had ignored or dismissed. Now those species found friends in humanity. They found partners who treated them with dignity. The balance of power was shifting, and the Council was starting to notice. A year after Seo-jin's dramatic appearance, the Council called an emergency session. They invited Daeho to attend as an observer. He accepted the invitation and made the jump to the Council station with a small security team. This time, when he entered the chamber, he was not alone. Representatives from 50 other species came with him. Species that had trade agreements with Earth. Species that wanted the Council to know they supported humanity. Thek spoke first, his voice full of barely controlled anger. "You were told to remain in your system. You defied us. This cannot be tolerated." Daeho stood and addressed the Council directly. "You did not give us a choice. You locked us in a cage and told us to wait 5,000 years. Did you really think we would just sit there and accept it? You do not understand humanity at all." Beltronas flickered. "You have disrupted the order that has kept the galaxy stable for 10 millennia. "Your order," Daeho replied. "Your stability, built on keeping species in their place. We do not accept that order. We offer something better: partnership, equality, progress." The debate continued for hours. The Council demanded humanity cease its expansion. Daeho refused. The Council threatened sanctions. The 50 species standing with Daeho threatened to leave the Council entirely. It ended in deadlock. 5 years had passed since the Council rejected Earth. In that time, the galaxy had changed in ways no one expected. Human colonies now existed on 47 worlds across 12 different star systems. Not one of these colonies had been established through force or conquest. Every single one was built through partnership with species who wanted humanity's help. Governor Bora Song walked through the streets of New Harmony, a city on the planet humans called Kepler 442b. The city was strange and beautiful. Human buildings stood next to Valorian structures. Parks designed for both species filled the spaces between. Children from 2 different worlds played together in the afternoon sun, their laughter universal even if their words were not. Bora stopped to watch them play. A human child was teaching a group of Valorian children how to kick a soccer ball. The Valorians with their 6 arms were very good at it. Everyone was laughing. This, Bora thought, this is what the Council could never understand. Working together makes everyone stronger. But not everyone was happy about humanity's success. Back on the Council station, emergency meetings had become regular events. The Council was slowly losing its grip on galactic order, and they knew it. "Look at these numbers," Thek said, projecting data for all the Council members to see. 73 species have reduced their trade with Council-approved corporations by an average of 38%. They're buying human goods instead. Our economy is suffering. Beltronas studied the data with concern. It is not just the economy. Human ideas are spreading. Democracy, individual rights, equality. These concepts threaten the hierarchical structure that has maintained order for millennia. Speaker Rendix remained calm, but even she looked troubled. "We must admit that humanity has achieved what we thought impossible. Perhaps we should consider offering them limited membership in the council. Never, Thex said firmly. They defied us. They broke our laws. If we reward that behavior, every species in the galaxy will think they can do the same. Order will collapse. The debate continued without resolution. But while the council argued, something happened that changed everything. Dr. Somin Yang worked in a hospital on Earth that treated both humans and aliens. After humanity opened trade with other species, many aliens had come to Earth seeking medical care. The council's medicine was advanced, but it was expensive and often unavailable to smaller species. Somin specialized in genetic diseases. She had spent 3 years studying a condition called Rothgar's plague, a disease that had killed billions across the galaxy over thousands of years. The council's scientists had worked on it before but made little progress. It was too complex, they said, too difficult to solve. But Somin did not believe in impossible problems. She looked at the disease from a different angle. Instead of trying to cure the symptoms, she looked at the genetic code itself. She found something the council scientists had missed because they were looking for complex solutions. The answer was actually simple. A small genetic edit, a minor adjustment to how cells processed a specific protein. When she tested the treatment, it worked. Completely, permanently. Somin did not think about fame or profit. She immediately published her findings on every network that would carry them. She sent the treatment protocols to hospitals across the galaxy for free. Any doctor anywhere could now cure Rothgar's plague with basic equipment and this simple procedure. The response was overwhelming. Within weeks, medical centers on 1,000 worlds started treating patients. People who had been dying suddenly recovered. Parents watched their sick children become healthy again. Entire populations that had lived under the shadow of this disease for generations found themselves free of it. The galaxy did not forget who had given them this gift. Human medical science suddenly became the most sought-after commodity in known space. More importantly, humanity became something they had never been before in the eyes of the galaxy. Saviors. The council held another emergency session. This time there was no talk of sanctions or punishment. They had to acknowledge what had happened. Dr. Yang has accomplished in 3 years what our best scientists could not do in 3,000. Beltronis admitted. We must reconsider our assessment of human capability. But Thex was not ready to concede. One breakthrough does not change what they are. They are still violent, still unpredictable, and now they are building a military fleet. Our intelligence reports are clear. They are preparing for war, this was true. Humanity had not been naive about their situation. They knew that success would breed resentment. They knew the council might eventually use force. So they prepared Fleet Admiral Taeyang. Co-oversaw the construction of Earth's defense forces from a command center on Mars. He was an old soldier who had fought in conflicts on 3 continents before the Council's rejection unified humanity. He understood war in ways the Council's military leaders, who had fought nothing but minor skirmishes for centuries, could not. The human fleet did not look like Council military ships. Those were massive, powerful vessels designed to overwhelm enemies with superior firepower. Human ships were small, fast, and smart. Taeyang believed in asymmetric warfare. Do not fight where the enemy is strong. Fight where they are weak. He built ships that could jump in and out of combat in seconds. He trained crews in guerrilla tactics, cyber warfare, and psychological operations. He studied every conflict in human history and learned from all of them. Most importantly, he made sure every person in his fleet understood they were not fighting for conquest. They were fighting to stay free. The Council's intelligence reports on humanity's military buildup reached Thex's desk. He read them with growing alarm. These humans did not think like civilized species. They thought like predators, like survivors. He called for an emergency session of the full council. All 847 member species attended. It was the largest gathering in 50 years. Humanity must be stopped, Thex declared. They are spreading chaos across the galaxy. They are building weapons. They refuse to accept council authority. If we do not act now, we will lose control completely. He proposed an ultimatum. Give humanity 30 days to cease all expansion, submit to council oversight, and dismantle their military fleet. If they refused, the council would take corrective action. Military action, the vote was divided. Some species supported Thex. Others, particularly those who had trade agreements with Earth, opposed it. But in the end, the vote passed. 433 to 414. The ultimatum was issued. When President Yoon-ji Park received the council's message, she did not panic. She had known this moment would come. She called a meeting of Earth's leadership, including Dae-ho Kim, Admiral Tae-yang Ko, Dr. Hyun-woo Lee, and representatives from every major nation. "They are giving us 30 days to surrender everything we have built," she said. "What do we do?" Silence filled the room for a moment. Then Dae-ho spoke. "We knew the council would not let us continue forever. They are too afraid of change, too comfortable with their power. We cannot back down. If we do, we lose everything." Admiral Tae-yang nodded. "My fleet is ready. We cannot match their numbers, but we can make them regret attacking us. We fight on our terms, not theirs." Dr. Hyun-woo Lee added, "Our technology is still ahead of theirs. They do not understand how our systems work. That gives us an advantage." President Yoon-ji listened to all of them. Then she made her decision. "We respond with our own ultimatum. We give them 15 days to grant humanity full council membership with equal voting rights. If they refuse, we form our own alliance with every species that trades with us. We create a new power structure in the galaxy." "They will never accept that," someone said. "Then we will force them to," Yoon-ji replied. "We did not come this far to surrender now. Prepare the message. Make it clear. Make it strong. Let them know we are not afraid." The message was sent the next day. It was broadcast across every communication channel in the galaxy, not just to the council, but to every species, every world, every station. President Yoon-ji Park spoke in clear, simple words that were translated into hundreds of languages. "The Galactic Council has demanded our surrender. They want us to stop growing, stop learning, stop being free. We refuse. We offer the council a choice. Accept us as equals or watch as we build something better without them. Humanity will not bow. We will not break. We are done asking for permission." The galaxy held its breath. For 6 days there was silence from the council station. Then the response came. The council rejected humanity's demands. They activated the enforcement fleet, 500 warships, representing the combined military might of the council's most powerful species. Admiral Vexthor, a warrior who had led the enforcement fleet for 200 years without ever losing a battle, was given command. He was confident this would be quick. Humans were clever, yes, but they were one species against an alliance of hundreds. Numbers would win. Power would win. Order would be restored. The fleet began moving toward Earth. They would arrive in 14 days. The war everyone feared was about to begin. Admiral Tae-yang watched the reports from his command center. He did not look worried. He looked calm, almost peaceful. He had been preparing for this his entire career. He knew something the council did not understand. Humans had been fighting wars since they learned to stand upright. The council's enforcement fleet emerged from jump space near Earth's moon with overwhelming confidence. 500 massive warships arranged themselves in perfect formation, their weapons charged and ready. Admiral Vexthor stood on the bridge of his flagship, a dreadnought so large it could be seen from Earth with the naked eye. He expected the humans to surrender immediately when they saw his force. Any reasonable species would, but humans were not reasonable. The first indication something was wrong came when the fleet's sensors detected movement. Thousands of small objects appeared on the screens, scattered throughout the space around Luna. They were too small to be ships, too numerous to be missiles. The computer systems could not identify them. "What are those?" Vexthor demanded. His tactical officers studied the readings. "Unknown, sir. They appear to be some kind of automated devices. They are not broadcasting any signals. They are just floating there." Vexthor frowned. This was not normal combat behavior. Where were the human ships? Where were their defenses? He ordered the fleet to move forward cautiously. They had come too far to be intimidated by a few strange objects. The mines activated when the first council ships came within range. They were not traditional explosives. Each one contained a small jump drive and targeting computer. They used technology the council did not understand, could not predict, and therefore could not defend against. The mines jumped. One moment they were scattered across empty space. The next moment they were attached to council ship hulls, bypassing shields that were designed to stop energy, weapons and conventional missiles but had no defense against something that teleported directly onto the ship's surface. The mine explosions were small but perfectly placed. Each mine found a critical system. Engine components, shield generators, Weapon control systems. In the span of 30 seconds, 87 Council ships went dark, drifting helplessly in space with their systems destroyed. Vexthor watched in horror as his perfect formation fell into chaos. His flagship shook as several mines attached themselves to the hull. Only the ship's heavy armor saved it from critical damage. All ships, evasive maneuvers, he ordered. Activate point defense systems. But the point defense systems had been designed to shoot down incoming projectiles, not objects that appeared from nowhere already touching the ship. The mines continued their assault. 112 Council ships were now disabled. Vexthor's grand fleet had lost almost a quarter of its strength, and they had not even seen an enemy ship yet. Then the human fleet arrived. They did not come in formation. They did not announce themselves. They simply appeared from jump space in small groups, struck fast and hard, and disappeared before the Council ships could effectively return fire. It was like fighting ghosts. Tactical Officer Ha-Jun Shin coordinated the human attack from a command ship hidden in the asteroid belt. He had studied the Council's military doctrine extensively. They relied on overwhelming force and direct confrontation. They expected their enemies to stand and fight like honorable warriors. Ha-Jun had no interest in honor. He had interest in winning. Group 3, hit their supply ships, he ordered. Group 7, target their communication relay. Group 12, make them think you are going for the flagship, then jump away at the last second. Keep them confused. Keep them scared. The battle continued for 6 hours. The Council fleet, despite its superior numbers, could not land a solid hit on the human forces. Every time they targeted a human ship, it jumped away. Every time they tried to regroup, another wave of attacks disrupted their formation. It was the most frustrating combat experience Vexthor had ever endured. Finally, he made the painful decision to withdraw. He had lost 164 ships. The humans had lost none. It was a humiliation that would be remembered for generations, but the Council was not ready to give up. They adapted. They brought in new ships with better sensors. They developed tactics to counter the humans' hit-and-run style. Over the next 3 months, the war spread across multiple star systems. The Council controlled the major trade routes and the largest space stations. But humanity owned everything else. They struck from unexpected directions. They attacked supply lines. They disabled ships without destroying them, leaving enemy crews stranded but alive, which forced the Council to divert resources to rescue operations. Commander Jisoo Nam became a legend during this time. She led a small squadron that destroyed 3 Council battlecruisers in a single week. Her tactic was simple but effective. She would wait near a jump point, hiding among asteroids or debris. When a Council ship emerged from jump space, still disoriented from the transition, her squadron would appear and hit them before they could raise shields or charge weapons. The Council declared her a war criminal. Humanity declared her a hero. One pilot in particular caught the galaxy's attention. Donghae Lim was young, barely 25, but he flew his fighter like it was part of his body. During a battle near Proxima Station, he single-handedly disabled 3 battlecruisers through a combination of impossible flying and pure audacity. He flew his small ship directly into the engine exhaust of the first battlecruiser, a maneuver so dangerous and unexpected that the ship's automated defenses did not know how to respond. He placed a charge on the engine core and jumped away seconds before it detonated. He repeated this twice more, each time surviving by margins measured in milliseconds. The Council's military leadership could not understand it. Their ships were bigger, their weapons stronger, their shields more powerful. Why were they losing? Admiral Taeyanko understood. He had been trying to explain it to anyone who would listen for years. The Council fights to maintain order, he said during a broadcast to the human fleet. They fight because it is their duty. We fight because we must, because if we lose everything. That difference matters. That difference is everything. But the war had a cost. Human ships were destroyed too. Pilots died. On Earth, families mourned. Captain Seojin Kang, the first human to jump to the Council station, died defending a medical frigate from a Council attack. She stayed behind to buy time for the medical ship to escape. Her last transmission was simple. Worth it. Her sacrifice rallied humanity. Volunteers flooded recruitment centers. Every nation contributed more resources. The determination to win only grew stronger. While warriors fought in space, another battle raged across communication networks. Nari Kim led humanity's information campaign. She was a former journalist who understood the power of truth. She broadcast everything: battle footage, intercepted council communications, interviews with rescued alien crews who talked about how humanely they had been treated as prisoners. Most importantly, she revealed secrets the council had hidden for millennia. Technologies they had suppressed to maintain control. Resources they had hoarded while smaller species struggled. Treaties they had broken when convenient. The truth was damaging, and it spread across the galaxy like fire. Protests erupted on council worlds. Species that had supported the war effort began questioning why they were fighting. 17 species withdrew their forces from the enforcement fleet, citing moral concerns. The council's unity began to crack. The turning point came at the Battle of Proxima Station. The council had assembled its largest fleet yet, over 400 ships determined to end the war with one decisive blow. Admiral Vexthor commanded them personally, still stinging from his earlier defeat. Admiral Taeyang met him with only 150 human ships. The council expected an easy victory. They were wrong. Dr. Hyunwoo Lee had been working on a new weapon. It used principles of gravity manipulation to create a pulse that could disable ships without destroying them. It was not elegant. It was not perfect. But it worked. The battle was brutal. Unlike previous engagements, this time the human fleet stood and fought. Ships on both sides took heavy damage. The space around Proxima Station filled with debris and weapons fire. For 3 hours, the outcome remained uncertain. Then Taeyang gave the order. 20 human ships positioned strategically throughout the battlefield activated the gravity pulse weapons simultaneously. The effect was immediate and devastating. 200 council ships suddenly went dark, their power systems overwhelmed by the gravity distortion. They drifted helplessly, their crews alive but their ships completely disabled. Taeyang opened a direct communication channel to Vexithor. His words were broadcast across every frequency, heard by both fleets and transmitted across the galaxy. Admiral Vexthor, your crews are alive but helpless. Their life support will fail in 6 hours if we do not help them. Surrender now and we will evacuate every single person. We will provide them with supplies and safe passage home. Continue fighting and we will leave you to save them yourself while we destroy the rest of your fleet. Choose. It was a bluff. Humanity would never leave thousands of people to die in disabled ships. But Vexthor did not know that. He saw his fleet in ruins. He saw human ships surrounding his disabled vessels. He thought about thousands of his people dying slowly in the cold of space. For the first time in his 200-year career, Admiral Vexthor surrendered. The galaxy watched in stunned silence as human ships began rescue operations, pulling crews from disabled council vessels. True to Taeyang's word, every person was evacuated safely. The peace talks took place on a neutral space station built specifically for the negotiations. It was a joint construction project between humans and Valorians, completed in just 4 months. The station floated in empty space between territories, belonging to no one and everyone at the same time. Daeho Kim walked through the station's main corridor toward the negotiation chamber. 10 years had passed since he stood before the council as a nervous ambassador, listening to their laughter. Now he was Earth's chief negotiator, and he walked with confidence. Behind him came President Yoonji Park, Admiral Taeyang Ko, and representatives from the 203 species that had allied with humanity during the war. In the chamber, the council waited. Veltronus, the ancient energy being, flickered with colors that might have been respect or resignation. Thex, the floating mountain, sat in silence, his pride clearly wounded. Speaker Rendix watched the humans enter with calculating eyes. The irony of the moment was not lost on anyone. The same people the council had mocked now sat across from them as equals, possibly even superiors. The galaxy had turned upside down in just a few years. Daeho took his seat at the head of the human delegation. He looked at each council member in turn, then began to speak. We did not want this war. We asked for membership peacefully. We asked to be treated as equals. You laughed at us. You imprisoned us in our own solar system. You forced us to fight for the right to exist freely in the galaxy. Thex started to respond, but Veltronus stopped him with a gesture.
The ancient being spoke instead.
You are correct. We were arrogant. We believed our age granted us wisdom, but we had only accumulated comfort. You have proven us wrong. What do you demand as terms of peace? This was the moment everyone had been waiting for. The victors in galactic wars typically demanded harsh terms: territory, resources, submission. The Council braced itself for humiliation. Daiho surprised them. "We do not want to destroy the Council. We want to reform it. The galaxy needs structure and cooperation, but not hierarchy and control. We propose a new system, a galactic union where every species has equal representation, regardless of size or age or technological advancement, where decisions are made democratically, where technology and knowledge are shared freely, rather than hoarded by the powerful." The chamber fell silent. Thex finally spoke, his voice heavy with disbelief. "You want to give power to everyone? Even species that have barely discovered space travel? That is chaos." "No," President Yunji Park said firmly. "That is equality. That is justice. What you call order is just another word for control. We offer something better." The negotiations continued for 3 months. Every detail was debated. Every clause was examined. Representatives from hundreds of species contributed ideas and concerns. It was messy and loud and sometimes frustrating, but it was also democratic in a way the galaxy had never experienced before. The final document was called the Treaty of Terra, named after Earth's original Latin name. It established the Galactic Union to replace the Galactic Council. Every species would have one vote in the new assembly, regardless of their power or technology. A High Council would manage day-to-day operations, but its members would be elected by the assembly for fixed terms. No species could hold power forever. Most revolutionary was the technology-sharing mandate. All scientific discoveries, all medical breakthroughs, all innovations would be made freely available to every member species. The practice of hoarding knowledge to maintain superiority was abolished. Progress would be collaborative, not everyone agreed. 73 species, mostly those who had benefited most from the old hierarchy, rejected the treaty and withdrew from galactic society. They retreated to their home systems, choosing isolation over equality. But 774 species signed the treaty. The galaxy changed. The signing ceremony was broadcast across every world in the Union. Daiho stood at the podium, holding a simple pen. Around him, representatives from hundreds of species waited their turn to sign. He thought about that day 10 years ago when he had stood before the Council in shame. He thought about all the people who had worked and fought and died to reach this moment. He signed his name. Then he stepped back and watched as, one by one, the galaxy committed to a new future. But humanity was not done giving. Dr. Soman Yang stood before the assembly a week after the signing and made an announcement that shocked everyone. Earth is opening its complete medical database to the Union. Every treatment, every drug formula, every surgical technique humanity has developed. All of it, freely available to any species that wants it. Dr. Hyunwoo Lee followed with his own announcement. The jump drive technology that started this all, the technology that freed us from our cage, we are sharing that too. Every species will have access to the patents and blueprints. No royalties, no restrictions. Engineer Jiwon Choi was next. We are establishing training centers on 20 different worlds. We will teach any species that wants to learn how to build and maintain jump drives, how to fold space, how to reach for the stars. Knowledge should belong to everyone. The generosity was overwhelming. Species that had fought against humanity during the war found themselves receiving gifts rather than punishment. It was not what anyone expected from a military victor, but it was exactly what humanity had promised. They fought for the right to be free, and they wanted everyone else to be free too. 10 years after the Treaty of Terra was signed, Taeho Kim stood once again in what was now called the Union Hall. But this time, he stood not as a petitioner or a negotiator, but as Earth's representative on the High Council. He had been elected by the Assembly with the highest vote count in the Union's short history. The hall looked different now. The hierarchical seating arrangements were gone. Every species sat on the same level, in a great circle where everyone could see everyone else. The physical change reflected the philosophical one. No one was above or below anyone else. Speaker Rendix, now called Union Coordinator, addressed the Assembly. It was the 10th anniversary of the Union's founding. She spoke about how far they had come, about the progress made, about the cooperation between species that would have been unthinkable under the old council. We rejected humanity because we thought them primitive, Rendix said. We were catastrophically wrong. They were not primitive. They were potential. They saved us from our own stagnation and showed us what we could become. Today we celebrate not just the union but the species that made it possible. The hall erupted in sound. It was applause, a human custom that had spread across 800 species. The sound waves combined and harmonized in ways that were beautiful and chaotic, and perfectly representative of what the union had become. After the ceremony, Deho took a shuttle back to Earth. He needed to attend another ceremony, this one more personal. On the lunar surface, humanity had built a memorial to those who died in the war. Captain Seojin Kang's name was first on the list of 6,000 names carved into the dark stone. Deho placed a flower at the base of the memorial, a human tradition that aliens found beautiful even if they did not fully understand it. He looked up at Earth hanging in the black sky, blue and white and precious. They laughed at us, he said softly to the names on the wall. Now they learn from us. You made that possible. All of you. In a laboratory orbiting Jupiter, Dr. Hyunwoo Lee worked alongside researchers from 40 different species. They were attempting something that the old council had declared impossible. Again. Hyunwoo was trying to find a way to fold space even more efficiently, to make jump drives so small that even the smallest ships could use them. A young Valorian scientist, barely out of school, approached him nervously. Dr. Lee, may I ask you something? Do humans ever stop pushing boundaries? Do you ever say something is too hard and give up? Hyunwoo laughed. It was a sound the young alien had learned to recognize as happiness. Comfort is death, Hyunwoo said. Questions are life. We learned that long before we reached the stars. We will keep learning it forever. The day we stop asking what if is the day we stop being human. The young Valorian considered this. I think I understand. You do not accept limits. We accept that limits exist, Hyunwoo corrected gently. We just do not accept that they apply to us. On a training station near Mars, Admiral Taeyang Ko taught the new Union Defense Force. His students came from 100 different species. They learned tactics and strategy, but more importantly, they learned philosophy. They learned why humans fought the way they did. War is terrible, Taeyang told his students. Never forget that. Every battle has a cost measured in lives and suffering. But if you must fight, fight for something worth the cost. Fight for others, not just yourself. Fight to protect, not to conquer. Win hearts before you win battles. Make your enemy respect you even as they fear you. And never ever forget what war costs, because the moment you forget, you become the villain. A student raised one of its several appendages. Admiral, the old council military fought for order and control. You say we should fight for protection. But is that not just another form of control? Taeyang smiled. Good question. The difference is consent. We protect those who want to be protected. We do not force our protection on anyone, and we train everyone to protect themselves so they do not need us. Our goal is to make ourselves unnecessary.